Dėkojame Tomui. Na ir paskutinis mūsų pranešėjas David Vincent dėja porai dienų likus prieš konferenciją pranešė, jog atvykti jam nepavyks. Tačiau juk šiandieną kalbame apie išmanumą, inžinerinius stebuklus, tai tikrai radom išeitį, kaip apie skaitmenizaciją statybų pramonėje iš jo išgirsti. Tad jis mums tai papasakos, tačiau šiek tiek kitų formatų.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David, and I work for a company called Aproplan, but I'm not here, obviously, to talk about Aproplan itself. I'm here to talk about, let's say, digitalization in the construction business. Unfortunately, today I'm not able to join you guys. Actually, kind of bothered about that. I hope you had a fantastic, let's say, presentation, fantastic day. However, myself and our CEO, Thomas Goubeau, prepared a small little presentation for you guys. Presentation between, let's say, 9 and 11 minutes. The presentation will show you how, let's say, digitalization can help you, engineers, contractors, general contractors, subcontractors, architects, can help them standardize their processes in order to, let's say, have some lesson learned. That's the way we like to present it. It's to be able to show how standardized process through digitalization can help companies like the ones I've just mentioned. Okay, so I hope I won't bore you to death. If that's the case, you have 10 minutes to do a short nap. If not, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Feel free to shoot me an email. I'm sure the organizers of the, let's say, convention can share my email address with you guys. Feel free to send me an email, give me a call if you have any questions or if you would like to learn more about the topic. Have fun. Talk to you later.
So first off, let's start maybe to the basics. Let's align on a few things. The first one is usually, projects take 20% longer, and the 80% of them are over budget. So 20% longer, and out of 100%, 80% are over budget. The productivity, as you can see from the graph here, has actually declined in the construction sector compared to some of the others. And on the other hand, you have regulation who has increased significantly, making it harder and harder for people on site to be able to follow and track whatever needs to be done. And then, unfortunately, and that's where we come in actually, is like there's a very insignificant amount of investment made in R&D and IT. The one we want to focus on during this presentation is actually the fact that the projects are taking 20% longer, and that out of all of the projects, 80% of them are over budget. I'm going to try to prove you during this presentation, based on a concrete example of 180 projects, that this can change. So just to align here again, the current situation, the construction sector is unique. A lot of people don't realize that, and I'm not going to go into the details of it because all of you are from the construction sector, but basically the multiple stakeholders, pretty mature processes, and the fragmented industry makes it very hard to have a good operational project management in place. So, and that's where you see that if you start to do a few things like standardizing processes, making it simple for the end user, you can generate a huge amount of benefits. So the last point in this introduction I want to really bring forward is the fact that the challenge of what they call the cost of change. We didn't invent this, it's the Boston Consulting Group together with some other, with the World Economic Forum who basically translated this. They basically say that the earlier you detect something, the cheaper it is to change and the easier it is to change. So if you detect something that needs to be changed in the early phases, like in the planning or in the design, it costs you probably one to change that. However, the more you wait and you go into build, it's going to cost you 10. If you go into operate, it's going to cost you 100. And that's actually something we want to do, and where we believe standardization and digitalization can help on these things. So I'm going to skip these slides. I'm happy for you. I'm going to go into more details of that in the longer version. It's basically a study from McKinsey, and they basically come up with a few elements that an application like ours should have if it wants to be user-friendly but also used on site. So let's focus on the use case of the schools of tomorrow. So AG Real Estate is one of the big players here in Belgium, and they basically had the biggest social infrastructure project in Europe. It was 182 schools, about 700,000 square meters, project of 1.5 billion euros, which is about 1.2 billion pounds. And the projects were between 500,000 euros and 55 million euros, all in PPP or DBM, meaning with a maintenance of 30 years afterwards. So if you want a little bit more about the scope of the stakeholders, basically 133,000 students, 13 GVs representing 30 contractors, 60 architects, so spread around Belgium, 60 control or engineering firms, AG Real Estate, school representative, and the Flemish government. So pretty complex, but in the meantime, normal way of normal kind of program or project management structure. Their main challenges, because it was a PPP, is they had a high volume of projects with very strong penalties if they didn't deliver on time. They were also responsible for the facility management, so meant that they were putting a lot of focus on the quality of the projects. They wanted to create transparency to mitigate the risk and accountability towards the different stakeholders, not only the subcontractors but also the schools if they changed things last minute. They were, however, very well organized because it was a program. They had a central program team. They had very clearly defined processes, and they selected tools that integrated seamlessly with each other. And then they put also a continuous program in place. It was, to be honest, a very good, great success, to which we were really very grateful to be able to participate in. So overall, 150 schools in 30 months, which was a big achievement. Compared to the initial planning that was based in 2012, even before having all the work, the permits and so on, there's only a 9-month delay overall, which is quite impressive. They delivered 98% of their projects on time if you take the 60 days. Otherwise, it was 93% of all of the projects were on time. I don't know if you remember, but in the previous slides we said that overall projects were 20% behind. Here 93% were on time, and if you take the 60 days at 98%. From a budget point of view, we also said that 80% of the projects were over budget. Well, here they were 16%, out of which, if you look, 10% of them were only at 5% overrun, which is, I think, pretty impressive. We've not seen this often. Now, one of the key things is that there's no monitoring without standardization. So what they did is they defined the processes. However, they started very, very small. They didn't do everything at once. They started with a few processes, but every month or every other month, there was a new process coming in. They had very transparent and constant monitoring and reporting, and they were amazingly agile in the way of working. So it was not kind of a Gantt chart planning. It was really like we had recurring meetings with them on a bi-weekly and monthly basis and quarterly basis, where we went through how can we improve this and so on. So very efficient. We also were lucky enough to be the central piece of a number of tools, planning tools, maintenance tools. They had construction site cameras, and they had document management system. All of these were interlinked so that the information was there available seamlessly. And Philippe Monserrat, which I'm very happy to introduce you, had basically 3 things to say. Like, they focus on user adoption, digital data, and standardization, because all of these allow them to monitor and report easily, save time and money because everything is available and linked, and then the handover during the handover of projects between teammates, because it always happens, was very easy and quickly. And better quality and less risk during the maintenance phase is something that, now that we're a couple of years or 3 years later for some of the projects, they really see a big difference. So the proof is in the pudding, like they say. One of the clear data points, because we have all of this data and we work together with them to try to continue to improve this on all the other projects, is basically what you see here is during the delivery, this is the number of snags or remarks that they had per 100 square meters. What you see in the orange line is basically the number of remarks they had. As you can see in the beginning, they started it off, so in the beginning of 2016, they had quite a bit, like 12 per 100 square meters, while you see this going down over time, which of course is a good sign. Now, where the paradox is actually the number of square meters that they've been working on, which is represented by the green line, is going up, meaning your quality improves while the volume of activity is actually increasing. This is something that they were hoping for, but that they actually delivered. The second aspect, because they monitored everything, they digitalized everything, they had a very transparent performance management of all of their subcontractors. They really easily could say, you're a good and you're a bad subcontractor, between brackets, because of the quality you're delivering. They did the same on safety and environment also, but on the quality is where they really were very good at. And then from our point of view, we were in charge of the training of the teams. What we've seen is a significant reduction in the cost of training. What you do also see, it never goes down to zero. So it really reduces over time. It went from about 15 hours per project, it went down to 5. And it was needed, even though we sometimes encounter some of the same teams. We really saw that the people were happy to see us again, to refresh their mind and okay, kick it off and do some of this basic training again. It's not only about training, but also about the users. The users actually liked the processes because it was really easy. So it was easy for them to switch from one project to another, and because they knew how to work together. Even if the parties around the table were different, there was a common way of working. And it was also very easy for them, and that's kind of the second part of the feedback, to identify mistakes before they were even critical. And some of the subcontractors were still on site, which is one of the major pain points you have if you look at this later on. So basically the big conclusion is like, what we want to help you with is focus on end user. Our app is really easy to use, very configurable, and you can do really projects going from a few €100,000 to above 200 million euros. It's very easy to integrate, so we don't own the data. The data is yours, so we push it back to any tool you want. Standardization of your processes is something we can work together on. I'm sure you already have a lot of experience. We have our own experience. We do believe that we can help you with that. And we continue to train people, because we don't want to ignore change management. A lot of people, even if they use a tablet once in a while, they're still using, still need to be helped, and we need to take into account change management.